Hello, everyone, and welcome to IS 300 and today's discussion of Chapter 3, Introduction to Project Management using Infor Deployment Method. In today's discussion, we'll talk about project management. We'll define it. What is project management? Why is it important? And more importantly, we'll talk about how Infor uses its methodology, IDM, or the Infor Deployment Methodology, to support Cloud Suite implementations. Very soon, you will be logging on and using some of the transactions that are built into the Infor Cloud Suite. So we will talk today about project management. ERP systems, by their nature, are very sophisticated and they require a great deal of planning, rigorous planning on the part of the project management team. The planning is step by step, it's well defined. It uses a methodology. There's a variety of methodologies out there. There's the waterfall methodology, the system development lifecycle methodology. There's quite a few methodologies out there that have been tested through the years. It's important because poor planning will put a project in jeopardy. It can cost millions of dollars, and it can make or break the success of a company. I have seen successful projects. I have seen projects that have gone horribly wrong. So what is project management? The official definition is here: the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities so that you can meet or exceed stakeholder expectations. The primary objective of any business is to maximize profit for and satisfy the stakeholders. The project management team will define the initiation, the planning, execution, controlling, opening, and closing of events with a specific start and end date. There is a set of interdependent tasks where the cross-functional organizational communication becomes important. It involves rigorous planning, as we said earlier, and resources that are allocated specifically towards a project completion. There are 3 well-defined objectives: scope, also known as requirements, schedule, and cost. Scope, schedule, cost. Why is project management important? I think you probably can answer that yourselves. It has an inherent degree of uncertainty and risk. A project has that built-in uncertainty. There are decisions that have to be made based on the availability of resources. And those decisions, bad decisions, can have a tremendous negative financial impact and can make or break a project. Ineffective project management, simply put, it will cause a project to fail. ERP systems, by their very nature, they are dynamic, they are fluid, they are always changing, and if the requirements aren't defined properly up front, then you have changes that have to happen. Changes that occur late in a project are extremely expensive because they weren't planned for. There may not be budget for them. There may not be time for them. And so it exacerbates all kinds of problems. And these constant changes in the scope is commonly referred to as scope creep. Poor change management over time is going to impact, even after implementation, it's going to impact the life cycle of an ERP system. So then we talk about specifically our deployment methodology called Infor. Infor Deployment Methodology, also known as IDM, the Infor Deployment Method, based on more than 5,000 implementations, 10 years of research and development in one methodology. It takes industry-specific business challenges and designs solutions into the project and into the application. Therefore, customization, which is inherently expensive, is not necessary, or at least it's minimized, because you have most of the industry specific functionality already included in the design, which leads to a seamless integration and a smoother project implementation. So a specific industry, for example, the automotive industry, will have certain requirements that are needed in their project, and those requirements will be built into the application. It provides a common language. Any product, any industry, any vertical market. Vertical simply means the same type of industry. So example, you have retail, you have manufacturing, you have sales, you have a variety of different types of industries. And the vertical market is software that is specific to a market. For example, doctors will use certain software specific to a doctor's office. Dentists, the same thing. Industry-specific project management gives you predictable and quantifiable results, again, because you have reduced the need for customization. You have universal deployment language for the entire Infor ecosystem, which means that the deployment language is specific to an industry, and it is bundled into the project itself. Infor has developed quite a few cloud-specific tasks into their methodology. That's one thing that sets them apart, is that they are using cloud-specific methodology and cloud-specific tasks in their methodologies. So you have more flexibility for those complex cloud projects, which they are designed for. It uses something called the responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed matrix, also known as RACI. And that matrix incorporates a set of phases and tasks. Cloud specific, you have infrastructure provisioning specifically for the cloud. You have rapid cloud deployment. It is highly predictable, and it has a great deal of quality assurance built into the project. Here are the phases of IDM: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phases. The inception phase, which is the kickoff, that includes the provisioning of the cloud infrastructure, looking at high-level requirements, confirming those requirements. Then you have the elaboration. It looks at the to-be processes and designs business blueprints, conference room pilot, which is simply a pilot of a prototype, if you will, of the system that is to be. And this may also include some business process redesign in this part of the project, because you want the as-is processes that are currently in the organization to match the to-be processes that you are working toward. Then there's the construction phase. You have application configuration, you have system testing, cutover planning. The transition phase then will include training for the end users, and the user acceptance testing, and the actual cutover will happen during the transition phase. Optimization, which gives you the post go live issues. Go live is where you actually cut the cord and you bring the project online. And so if you have post issues after it's been implementation rather, then you can handle those during the optimization phase. Also, the lessons learned is important, because those can be then bundled into the next project. And note that the project phases, each one of these 5 phases, will not end until a very specific milestone has been met, and until there is indication that it is good to move, we're good to go to move on to the next phase of the project. The Infor deployment methodology is based on 3 very well-known industry standards. They are the Project Management Body of Knowledge, also known as PMBOK, the Software and System Process Engineering Meta Model, SPIM, or in this case, SPIM 2.0. Then you have the Open Group Architecture Framework, TOGAF. These three very well-known standards, the best of these three standards, are bundled into Infor.'s deployment methodology. First, we'll talk a little bit about PMBOK. It is derived from a commonly referred to methodology also known as Agile. Agile is known for short delivery cycles, dynamic team cultures, which is good for international and global projects, less restrictive project control, real-time communication. It breaks the project into 4 to 6 weeks phases or sprints, as they're called, and there's a work breakdown structure which identifies each phase, the resources required for each phase, the schedule for each phase, and that type of thing. So it breaks the project into phases and then works towards the completion of each phase. Then you have SPIM 2.0, another standard that is integrated into IDM. It defines the development process and the components, only minimal elements, doesn't add any industry-specific constraints, but supports rather cultural backgrounds, certain levels of formalism, life cycle models, and communities. This is more of a human-oriented project management approach. It uses modeling tools that you may have heard of, the Unified Modeling Language or the Business Process Management Notation. Both of those are tools for documenting and diagramming the flow and the tasks included and necessary for a project to complete. Then you have TOGAF, the Open Group Architecture Framework, another very well-known standard which has influenced IDM. 300 architecture forum members and their collaborative efforts are bundled into this framework. It reflects the need of the stakeholders, which is important. It looks at best practices, and that's where lessons learned come into play because it's iterative. You can add those lessons learned into the next version of the methodology to constantly improve upon it. And it gives consideration to not only the current requirements, but any future requirements of the enterprise. That is an important distinction for this particular methodology. It has best practices that enable the organization to build some workable economic solutions, cost-effective solutions to address critical business needs. Everybody's speaking the same language. You don't have the proprietary solutions, the solutions that are bundled with a certain software. You can use open methods that are defined and designed for enterprise architecture. It gives you a significant and tangible return on investment. Okay, so in review, which of these is not a primary objective, a primary project objective rather? Which of these is not? Scope, we know that scope is. Schedule, we know that schedule is. Analysis, now it might be an objective, but is not a primary objective. Cost is a primary objective. So scope, schedule, and cost are the primary objectives. Analysis is important, but it is not one of the primary objectives. So the answer is C. Project management tasks are they unrelated? No, they are not unrelated. Are they interdependent? Yes, they are. They are very interdependent, even across organizations. Are they unstructured? Usually the objective is for them not to be unstructured, but rather for them to be structured. Are they ad hoc? Ad hoc typically will mean there's been some change management and some scope creep. So ad hoc is not one of the desired effects. So the answer to this is B. Project management tasks are interdependent. Which of these is likely to cause a project to fail? Scope creep, we definitely talked about the constant changes in scope that can cause a project to fail. I believe in this week's chapter, it talks about analysis paralysis, where there's so much analyzing and so much discussion that you never actually come to a resolution or a definitive set of requirements. Analysis paralysis is very likely to cause a project to fail. Meeting mania, where you meet just to set up a meeting, and you meet after the meeting, you meet to schedule meetings. Too much meeting is definitely will reduce the morale and also can cause a project to fail. It also reduces the actual accomplishments because you're spending all your time meeting. So that's also one of the things that will cause a project to fail. So scope creep, analysis paralysis, and meeting mania, all of those will cause a project to fail. The answer to this one is D, all of the above. IDM, the Infor deployment methodology, based on which of these standards? ANSI, that's a programming standard. OSI, that is a networking standard. TOGAF, that is definitely one of the standards that IDM is based on. UML, it will use UML, it implements UML, but it's based on TOGAF. So the answer is C. Which project phase will include cloud infrastructure provisioning? Well, is it optimization? Remember, there's 5 phases. Optimization is one of the phases. Configuration is one of the phases. Transition is one of the phases, but it is the inception phase at the very beginning of the project when the cloud infrastructure provisioning will occur. So the answer to this one is D. And that has been our discussion of project management and the Infor deployment method.